Hi there.
Hi, Glenn.
G'day, Tim. Tim Damianidis, everybody from WA in Perth.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that you've put me on tonight or today, and just wanted to cover a few things with you if you've got time with it. Um, we mentioned at the beginning, like why certain social norms lead us in different directions, and we were
Oh,
talking
that's
about
right.
the hat example, and I mentioned, the reason I'm wearing a hat is not necessarily because I'm conscious of being, like a bold person.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not because of that. It's just that I feel like it's sometimes you get hot or cold depending on the hair covering,
Oh, of
and
course.
so it's got a sort of a practical purpose to it.
hmm
But sometimes I just do it out of habit, so it's a bad habit as well. Anyway, the thing that it leads to is that in the same way that we take on these personal things that we want to do to improve ourselves because of the illusions that we have about how we look and how we come across to people and all these kind of things. A lot of people tend to focus on makeup, for example, girls and ladies tend to focus on makeup and the way they look and fashion and all these aspects.
hmm
And as I was explaining to you before, uh, a lot of these issues come about because they're sort of institutional. They become systemic to our society, and they determine a lot of how we're going to proceed in life. Because if you're distracted by certain things like how you look and how you appear to people, you're not going to focus on the reality of the situation or the real things that are going on as much during that time that you're actually distracted.
Or trying to impress.
You're trying to impress, yeah.
Mm.
And so that's why the personal aspect is one of them. The other one that I broke it down to was the nationalism, and I believe the nationalism one is paired with patriotism, right? So if patriotism to me is okay, like you want to have some kind of loyalty to the people around you, you have similar characteristics or cultural aspects that are similar to others, and
Almost
you want
old-fashioned to be patriotic now.
patriotic, yeah. But nationalism itself um, is actually taking pride in somebody else's efforts, more so that. Um, and
hmm
it's more of an illusion because it's easy to get people proud, for example, that their football team won, or proud of the flag that they never fought under, but others did.
hmm
Um,
Is there a collectivist type of ideal about nationalism that patriotism doesn't include? So when you're
sure.
nationalism is a collectivist working towards the nation and things like that politically as well.
I think in that aspect, they both got that aspect. They're aligned on that one, where you have a national interest, but you're not focusing on the, for example, the national interest of eliminating poverty, the national interest of having enough housing for each person.
Security, national security.
Security, all these things are all realistic things that you would have to look at
Since
if.
since we've had nations,
Mm,
mind you, when nations haven't been around since forever, like they weren't in before the time of the kings in the Bible.
yeah.
Originally, there were tribes
Mm,
when you go back to the very beginning.
Hmm.
And then the 12 tribes of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, he had 12 sons, and that's where the 12 tribes came from. But after that, it was a period of judges who dispensed justice. But then the people wanted to have a nation out of some desire. And I think at the time they were kind of advised, be careful what you want. Because when things get bigger, you move away from the tribe and you can't sort things out the old way that you used to.
Mm.
We used to live in a small house and we'd be able to hear each other from either end. Now
Yeah.
we're in a four-bedroom house and the brick walls, and I've got to literally go to the same room as other people to get things worked out. They're
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
do they want me? I think I can hear them.
yeah, yeah.
So we go into the area of Babylon and the area of legality controlling, because you've got people of all different mixes and backgrounds. You don't even know
Mm.
each other really anymore. So that you become what's that word when people don't know who you are, and you
Like an
have
anonymous sort of.
anonymity, yeah. Anonymous people and things like that. I mean, even in a town of 40, 50,000 where I
Yeah,
live,
yeah. I mean, even
most
in a large workplace, you go into a workplace with 100 people, 200 people. I don't know all their names by the end of the month. It's like it's pretty hard to know that.
mm,
But yeah, I can see where you're going with the religious side of things because religion also has um, two aspects to it because that I see. There's that part that you're talking about where it's the practical examples that we're learning from the scripture itself, from the stories that are embedded in there, and if you read between the lines, you can see what's going on in throughout the whole thing, right?
a progression of
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
perhaps.
And so that aspect is the true part of it. That's the real thing. The part that I like to call the Christianity. But since whenever I'm not sure exactly when it started, but since this establishment we have that calls itself the church.
Yeah. Well, that started with Jesus. He established the Christian churches. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he established the church, the original one, but what they call the church today is divided by 40,000 denominations in America. There's the Catholic and all the branches of Catholicism. Like there's the Eastern Roman and the Roman, and then there's the American, and all these different versions of Catholicism. Then there's the Orthodox, and then they have all their versions, across the domains there. And they all purport to be the church. They
Mm.
all say, we are the original. They're all saying that, right?
Hmm.
But what I found is that so long as these operations are run in an oligarchical manner, that is, that you still have a situation where the few are leading the flock,
Hmm.
wherever that is, whether it's a Protestant church or whether it's a Catholic or whether it's a Orthodox church. What happens is all the problems that you find in an oligarchy
Hmm.
manifest within those churches, and
Hmm.
they become a reality to some people. Some of
Yeah,
the crueler sides of it.
sure. Yeah. We're
We
talking
don't
perhaps.
see it. We don't see it as outsiders, but the inner politics of a church, for example. Um, Sorry, did I
Oh
cut you
no,
off?
go ahead. Just referring to tradition, where
Yeah,
traditions become a part of the practice of the church and the faith, and um, that's that's actually addressed within the Bible, and Jesus was very strong against the Pharisees at the
yeah,
time because they were believing in these traditions as a way of believing they were pleasing God by adhering to these man-made traditions that
true.
had come over time. And he's like, no, What were some of them? You got these hand cleaning traditions, hand cleaning requirements. So that the belief was if you clean your hands and you clean the food and you prepare it in a certain way, you're not going to put bad things into your body. And therefore you're clean. You are pure then.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what apparently, back in that within that thinking, it doesn't matter what goes on in your head and your heart, or you're still pure because you're eating things and correctly and done in a certain way.
I
So
see.
that
Because of the tradition, you mean?
and that was the tradition. That was the type
Mm.
of worship that was going on to
Yeah.
not just make God happy, but to influence God,
Yeah.
let's say. I've got more influence than you do because I'm a better person. That's a very kind of common way to come at things, isn't it? Like
Mm. Mm.
if you think of the way that human beings work with each other,
Yeah.
it's not surprising.
I get that train of thought. I understand that part. What I was trying to convey was probably a little bit aligned to that, but more so the fact that, for example, when you were reading those stories that you're talking about, the judges and all that kind of thing, what actually is said in those things is that I mean we can get really technical and we'd have to open up books and stuff, but basically the way I saw it was Emmanuel was the name of this savior that they were waiting for.
Mm,
And Emmanuel himself was the name that means the God that walks with us.
okay.
And Emmanuel was because they knew that the child was actually Emmanuel. They didn't give him that name. They called him the Savior, Jesus, which means Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so he received that name as the Savior because he would not be. He didn't come to dominate us, and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't come to um, put everyone in their place.
Mm-hmm.
He came in a way that he would walk with us as a human part. Well, the human factor of himself as Jesus as a born entity, because there was a man and a God entity there
Mm-hmm.
combined. And so the man part of Jesus was going to walk with us and carry as a vessel the godly entity, right? So this is what leads to us to understand that out of all the ways that it could have happened, we had someone who had all the power in the world, all the absolute most powerful thing, organism or whatever you want to call it, the most powerful entity, and they decided to walk with us. And so when you say that, right, um, will any of these, mega church pastors or whatever they're called, walk with the people? Will they let anybody get up on the stage with that microphone and actually take over the show and say, "Look, this is what I believe, and this is what the truth is, and whatever else"? Will they let that happen? They won't let that happen. But with Jesus, he let everybody talk, but he put them on the straight path because he would give them a wise answer to whatever they were going to question.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That was
but he gave them the
important.
platform. He
Yeah.
didn't forbid anybody from taking the platform.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the difference. And so when you go into the Catholic Church, they've spent the last 1,000 years trying to convince everybody that there is a justification for having some uh, royal entity at the head of the actual Catholic Church.
Yep.
And the Orthodox have put some kind of caliphate together, even though they represent Christianity. They
Mm-hmm.
have the same kind of guy in charge as well at the very top,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
similar to the Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And so this structure is called an oligarchy, where
Okay.
one guy, when you know what I mean. And so these people can actually make life miserable for some of the people that come to the church
Mm-hmm.
if they're not good people.
Yeah.
Because this is we're talking about the flaws of the oligarchy, right?
Yeah.
At the very best, they can be the best thing ever, right?
Yep.
You can have the best people in charge and do the best thing for everybody in that church.
Uh-huh.
But oligarchies tend to lean towards corruption, power, greed, money, everything you can imagine that would corrupt us, an individual passes through those offices in those pinnacle offices at the very helm of these churches, whether they're Protestant, Catholic, or Orthodox,
Uh-huh.
all the same.
Yeah.
In fact, I go one step further. It includes the imams of the mosques and the Jewish rabbis and all the people in there.
Yeah.
It's because the structure is exactly the same, and
Well, they're
it's not a biblical structure.
no, they make themselves intermediaries
Yeah,
between people and God. And I have mentioned, like you said, hierarchies before, but
yeah,
in my opinion of a hierarchy, Jesus is the head of the hierarchy.
yeah.
And then everybody can have personal relationship, and you don't need an intermediary
No,
to have a relationship with Jesus. But in the spiritual sense,
yeah,
a child is in the lower of the hierarchy than their parents, let's say. So in that sense, we all serve each other, but we must give honor to people that are the people that
yeah.
specific.
I appreciate that. Yeah, like give respect to people who've obviously sacrificed their life to dedicate it to one purpose like that.
Hmm,
That's for real. That's real. That's
hmm.
a real aspect of it.
But you're talking about a political structure,
But I'm
perhaps.
talking about the political structure
Yeah.
of the entities that we have. They're all oligarchies, right?
Hmm,
And what happens is that everything that you can imagine that's happened during some of the worst periods of our last 6 years, for example, since 2019 to 2022, for example, that period, everything that went wrong during that time was because we had an oligarchical pressure or force going on within our systems around the world. And during the same time period, a lot of the churches went along with that program. They didn't say no, we're not going with it. They went with it, and that
right.
from all walks of life, and
Yeah.
across the globe, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Christianity; it was also the all the others, right? You want to
Yeah.
talk about them?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I
Yeah,
mean,
but I'm just saying, because those other areas are not in our speciality, because we don't know the inner details of what's going on in their life, and it's not appropriate for us to talk about somebody else's culture. But in our culture, the one that we're sharing, we're permitted to actually criticize it and talk about it freely, right? That's part of what we call a democratic sort of approach.
oh, look, I think it's the only way to stay sane,
Yeah.
to have that outlet for ideas, and those ideas have to be challenged in the free marketplace of ideas, and they should stand on their own or they should fall. And people who run away from doing that,
Yeah.
that's a tell
Mm.
that well, what does it tell you when they when
Yeah.
they decide that they don't want to engage like that, and they just they cut it off and don't do it. I mean, that seems to be what's happening. But to me, it's very telling that it's a sign of well, they're not very confident, perhaps, about what they're saying.
Mm.
Otherwise, that, as you said, that was the revolution with the apostles that
Mm.
was carried on from Jesus. Like, AMA, ask me anything and
Mm.
I'll have the answer for you. And so the apostles carried that on, and that should be the method of the church. And that
Yeah.
that idea was originally
Yeah.
based from from it's part of the church method, and
Mm.
that's where we get that method originally, I
Mm.
believe. Oh, you've got
Well,
other
yeah,
people like Socrates,
I
perhaps.
I agree with that. That it's everything that we have at a hand has been tried. Um, when we had the monarchy, King David, right? That failed. We had the commune, where everybody tried to give everything to the apostles at one stage and create the commune in
Mm-hmm.
the Acts.
Mm-hmm.
So that failed. We've had all these things, right? And the fundamental thing is, it wasn't Jesus who was putting this together. It was actually the apostles trying to find a way that they could actually create this entity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he gave them the way.
Guided as well,
He
guided in.
guided them. He already gave them. He already said to them. He already showed them. You walk with the people. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You walk with the people, and you talk to them. And if you need to heal them from whatever ails them, you do that. And he empowered them. He said, "Look, I give you. There will come a time where you'll do greater things. There'll be people doing greater things than myself." This is paraphrasing. I'm not good at quoting the Bible, but there'll be a time when you will be doing greater things than myself because because I'll be leaving from the planet before my time, sort of thing. In paraphrase. So he'll be going, but instead he'll be leaving everybody else to do the good works that he had done, which was the healing.
Yes. And his method of teaching is almost too fundamental and too honest for so many people to be able to emulate. So he's like, this is what I do, and then this is what I want you to do. You just do what I'm doing.
That's it.
And so a child can pick that up.
Yeah,
Isn't it funny? But most adults who have gone through some education, they're a bit
yeah,
cynical or whatever. They're like,
yeah,
oh, so you want me to do that? Why do you want me to do that? Oh,
mm,
I'm just going to put a tweak on that and
yeah,
see what I can improve on
yeah.
that,
I can.
that kind of thing.
Well, in our situation, in our life, there are people doing that, but they write prescriptions and charge you $100 a visit. For some of the healing, but it goes more than that. It's not just the physical medical healing. Um, that's the twist that you're talking about. That you were saying. That they put a twist on it, but in our society, that's what they've done. And really, we need to look at a lot of things if we're going to go and talk about. If we're going to be talking about, how Australia is going to go into the next decade, from a very ground level, obviously opinion, I would say we need to have more interaction of the people, and participating more, because through that activity, and we'll touch maybe hopefully at another time on this one, but through that activity, we'll create a movement, or an energy that promotes this healing, this empowerment of others, and this change in attitude, rather than the alternative, which is the oligarchies putting pressure on. One of the things Alexander did, Glenn,
Mm,
um, was that he put people that he wanted in power. So and he told them, either join us or you'll die. Alexander the Great, right?
yeah, I thought you were mentioning. Yep.
So he did that with the people that he conquered, and that mentality is actually in a lot of oligarchies that exist today, whether they're in business or whether they're in anywhere else. You're either with us or you're not. Either you're supporting us or you're not. I mean, it's a very Trumpism sort of approach as well. Like, uh, play by our rules or else, sort of thing.
Be politically correct. you want to work in the government, you have to believe what they believe
Yeah,
um, these days.
yeah. So these things, these aspects where you either are with us or not, sort of attitude, um, play a significant role when you have these good priests and you have these good preachers out there that believe that the fundamental things that we've talked about now, what are part of the actual faith itself, right? And what happens is they get scorned and they get pushed aside. They get treated like they don't deserve to have a parish. Um, they get pushed out in a world that is very hard for them to exist because they can't go. Not all of them have an income stream once they become priests. Like the Catholic, I believe, gets an income stream once they become a priest, but not all churches do that. For example, the Orthodox, they don't pay their priests. They're community driven payments, right? So, and the Protestants, they have a blend. Like a lot of it is funded, but there's a lot of it that comes in from donations. And so, anyway, so that, what I'm trying to say is this way of working makes it hard for some people to exist
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
entirely, right? And they feel it, and
Hmm.
that's where you get in a lot of the old writings. They used to mention the fathers of the desert and uh, saints and things like that, which creates a division in what you believe and what you don't believe. Some people say switch off once they hear the word. But the thing is, what actually created the need to highlight those people that were dubbed as saints, which is really just saying holy people, right? So we can accept that there are some holy people walking around on the planet. Um, these people are good to the core, but they don't abide by the agenda of those running the oligarchies, whether they're whichever denomination, whichever church, whatever it is, right? So they're
Hmm.
not abiding by these things, and then they become scorned. They become outcasts.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that is a very common thing that happens. And that's
Hmm.
why we have so many martyrs, modern martyrs, that are unrecognized. We don't even know them. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you see.
Hmm.
I have an idea because of my relationship with the institutions, but a lot of people don't have that clue of what's going on behind the scenes, you see.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, just drawing on that example, I would like to say that you, you can't expect an oligarchy without any contention to just fade away. There has to be some kind of action. Whether we're talking about, and a lot of people don't see it in the schools. They don't see it in the religions. They don't see it in the different organisations that exist in our society. But every single organisation that has an oligarchy needs to be contended with in some way. And it's not up to me and you just to go to randomly to every single one of them. We can't do that, right?
Hmm.
So it really boils down to that empowerment that we're talking about, and making sure that the people, everybody knows your duty isn't to take people to court, because I know that I went to a group today that was taking people to court over um, the intrusion of the cameras on the streets and what they pick up in terms of privacy.
Hmm.
And great news, fantastic coverage, all that kind of thing. It's not going to solve anything, but the following for that kind of thing is huge. There's heaps of people. Oh, look, they're taking them to court. They're gonna go to the high court and they're gonna get a win out of it and all that kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
But that kind of attitude where you're trying to use a corrupt system to your favor is not going to work.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Uh-huh.
The only way we can go forward is through programs like this one, where people get to express what they think. Make sure that enough people out there get a chance to listen and maybe absorb some of these things,
Mm-hmm.
and go from there,
Mm-hmm.
and start making a change step by step, word of mouth, and as some of our friends have said in the past, um, it's done one conversation at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So this is an important foundation for what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Um, it's a case of actually putting it all out there and saying, well, this is the situation. It's not just the government, because a
Yeah.
lot of people are anti-government, but this is the wrong attitude. This is the wrong way to look at it, because we're not anti-government. No one is anti-government.
Right. Yes, exactly.
I mean, we're not like these groups that are just totally out there.
If we don't, it'll create a vacuum, and that vacuum could be filled by what we don't really want at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's silly to say, Trump, come and save us. You think he'd save us if we're vulnerable?
No,
No.
no, no.
No, these guys, they
I
just
mean,
go for it. So we don't need a vacuum of power. We just need to stop feeding the corruption, feeding the corrupt oligarchy with our own forms of corruption, I guess. Where's
exactly.
where's the power? Where's the feeding coming from? Where's it sucking its life from? We consent to a lot of this stuff that
Yeah,
they feed off.
yeah,
That's the only thing. It's got to come from somewhere, the life from somewhere, and they're sucking it out of us, I think.
yeah. I
We
think
think
so.
because we think it's gonna get us somewhere, maybe, or you know.
If we stop giving ourselves, I mean, to some extent, hope itself can become an illusion. We can have um, false hopes, as they say, right? But I I think we started something many thousands of years ago, that I still believe in, and others around me still believe in, which is this democratic sort of approach to things, right? And whether there's a monarchy, a constitutional monarchy established here in Australia, or whether it's um, a oligarchy or an aristocracy or whatever it is, it has to have at some point the voice of the people included in the communication between that entity. It
Yeah.
has to have an interface with the people somewhere.
It's the cheapest form of legitimacy.
Yeah,
If you've got a military coup and they're
yeah,
keeping control by the military and the people don't want it,
yeah.
it's very expensive to maintain. And usually that'll eat itself from the inside. That's how these places fall. So it costs a lot and it's also very unstable. So having I think it's done in the military as well for a reason sometimes. If you've got the agreement and support of the people involved, it's going to work a lot better. It's going to be a lot cheaper. It's just everything's going to be better. But if they gonna, you know, um, for some reason they can see something in it for themselves, well, they'll probably go for it even at the expense of all that. It's so I guess, you build it up and then some people come along and steal it. That's what it feels. We're in that sort of stealing stage where all of those goodies of Australia are kind of being just taken taken away by people
Well,
for
well,
themselves.
that can be the case. Like if you create that vacuum that you were talking about in certain areas, these pockets are easily identified, and then people come in and take resources. But we've already been we're I don't know how to say this without sounding really bad, but We sold this place a long time ago. You know, um, every facet of it of business, of life, of everything got sold a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Soon after the 1800s, I mean, I'm not an expert on Australian history as such, but soon after the 1800s, and I documented it in one of my books, is that it was close to being a superpower in terms of economics and so forth, because um, after the colonisation period and the initial infrastructure set up and all that kind of thing, the production rate here, the GDP, had reached higher than any other nation in the world, higher than USA. Not many people realise that, you see. But we actually had one of the highest things. But the reason that was the case was what many people say was the cheap labour of that time. You know, like through the bread thieves brought over, and anybody politically misaligned with the institution over there was sent over here, and they became cheap labour for the organisation that they had here.
Mm.
But soon after that, when the constitution was slowly being worked towards, not the actual constitution, the federal constitution, but soon before that, in a state at a state level, the power of the states actually increased significantly to the point where there was even a worry that Western Australia was going to become an independent state. You know,
Mm.
so this shows that the state powers were actually respected by the first constitution that was written.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the vacuum started because um, it gave license to a federal level, which meant it gave rise to a foreign level to come in as investors um, through that federal channel. And we got most of our farms, agriculture, most of our military is now, it's the Royal Army, it's not the Australian Army. We have businesses that are either British, European slash um, Western European, um, and we have American investments in here. You know, like Aldi, for example, is Western European that I'm giving an example of.
Mm-hmm.
Aldi, and then you have Rio and all the BHP and all these things that have got a heavy British investment in the country. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have the American companies, you know, like Ampol and or whatever, but they've been bought out now, I believe. So, anyways, there's Intel, you know, for the motherboards and all that kind of thing. So all these niches in business and everything were all taken up from many years ago, you know. And I remember when I was doing my stint as a businessman, the hardest thing was actually finding a niche or an area which hadn't been sold out to foreign mega chains or foreign big industries or you know, and I wasn't the only one, obviously. I mean, you know, people like Pauline Hanson and a whole bunch, Malcolm Roberts and Rennick and a few others, Babette and a few others, all have mentioned this in within Parliament itself. So they've mentioned these problems of small businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a whole bunch of other politicians. I don't align with all of them. I'm just saying that these are the ones that I know I've heard with my own ears that have actually spoken about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this new phase that we're going through, which is brought about by the atrocities in Sydney that happened not that long ago, and a few of the other things that have happened since then,
Mm-hmm.
um, are a different level, a different thing. Um, what they call it terraforming. Have you heard of that term before?
Terraform.
Yeah,
Is that?
it's like it's a sci-fi sort of term, where you know you send in these modules of whatever they are, and they change the planet from semi-livable entity to a livable entity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the history of this terraforming, which is the opposite of ethnic cleansing, by the way.
Uh-huh.
The thing of terraforming is that you go into a place, you buy out a suburb, um, sell it to your friends, and then terraform the situation there with people that are aligned with your values. And a lot of people were doing that in America. Um, they were buying out these neighborhoods of houses that became what do they call foreclosures during the 2008 2010 collapse of the Twin Tower event.
Mm-hmm.
So they went and terraformed these neighborhoods to change the demographics of the area.
Okay. Yeah. It's
And so,
gentrification, is that similar or is that
yeah, it sounds similar. What
okay?
did you say? Gentrification?
Gentrification, where it's
Yeah,
particularly working class suburbs become yuppified for
yeah,
yuppies, you know?
yeah. You could get that, and you can also get one religious group taking over an area, or one ethnicity taking over an area, or one even a business arrangement where it happens over time. Like, but let's say you have a hospital in an area, and all the employees of that hospital slowly buy all the houses around there because they want to get closer to where they're working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and slowly, that's actually terraformed the area into a livable area that they can communicate with, and whatever else.
Right.
So these things, these dynamics are happening all around us all the time, and the laws that prohibit uh, the hate as such. Um, are on a different level. They're not addressing these particular issues because these are the fundamental problems, right? Because if you get a pocket of people in that the police don't want to go through because it's too dangerous to go through, like they do in America, um, then you've created a situation that needs to be resolved in a different way. Like you can't be super nice about it. You just need to be put a heavy hand on that one. In some instance,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and just say this has to happen, and put it in play. But which is where the ICE thing comes in America. They've
Mm.
actually come across and said, well, this is enough of the drug dealing and whatever else is going on in these neighborhoods because they were terraformed. They would actually come in, um, create or the gentrification that you were talking about. I'm not sure if that's the
Oh,
term.
yeah, no, I think what you're saying is a bit different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so and then they would transform these neighborhoods into like a hub, and you would drive through there, and it would be a totally different world for us. But for them, the people that created these hubs, um, these suburbs, if you like, would actually, prosper from that. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And even in historic terms, I was reading a book by a guy called Warren Treadgold, and he noted that a lot of the Turkic tribes that came into Byzantium, which was the Rome of that time,
Mm-hmm.
were passive migrants. They just came in as passive migrants. They were allowed to settle. They were allowed to communicate and all that kind of thing. And then within a period of 200 years, they assaulted the capital, which was Constantinople,
Uh-huh.
and took it over. And it's become an Islamic state ever since.
Yes.
So this is how that terraformed there. They also terraformed or started to terraform in Serbia, and the heavy-handed approach was applied there, which wasn't a very good idea the way he did it. But there's fables of Vladimir the Impaler and all these kind of things coming out from there because of the way he tried to scare off the the migration into their territory rather than securing the borders, which is what he should have done.
Uh-huh.
So these are all bad and good examples of what's happened in the past.
Uh-huh.
And David Icke, jumping into our modern era, was questioned about something similar to this, and he was saying that the uh, the eastern world and the Western world have been at clashes for a long time, but whoever's creating that clash, or the entities that are creating that clash, are not sided with one or the other. It's the same team that is running the West, the East, and everything in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned that when we wake up to these ideas that um, there is actually another layer above all this that is beyond our vision, so we don't see it, but there is another layer of power and money and all that stuff going on that's beyond our view, and that layer, that entity of power or force is the thing that we need to unite against, but we can't see it. So how can you unite against something that you can't see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and that
Well,
is
it's a
that is where
spiritual. This is the spiritual element.
spiritual element, but it's also a practical and physical form,
Mm-hmm.
in
That
sense that
manifests in the world. Yeah.
yeah. So we need to find a way that we can actually channel all this stuff through a collaborative and cohesive way of doing things, rather than antagonizing each other with these views. The reason I mentioned all these segregation and the terraforming and all that is not to isolate a particular ethnic group or anything. It's for the purpose that, as an example, this is what's going on. Okay, this is the reality of it,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to come to grips with how to deal with it in a passive and safe and way that actually a lot we can align with as a society, because I can't see Australians becoming very aggressive over many things, because there are some things that irritated people during the atrocities that happened in Bondi, and those things those things triggered a lot of a wave of discontent, but it didn't backlash with violence, which is the most important thing. You know what I mean?
I do. I do. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, you could look at that in a couple of ways. Maybe it's not what people want, or maybe we're just not there yet and things haven't gotten bad enough, or perhaps we don't even know who are the goodies, who are the baddies. Like, you can't just go lashing out at
No,
the air.
that's right. And I think that at this stage, um, like what David Icke was saying was something I align with, in the sense that um, you have this cultural difference between East, West, Middle, everywhere in the world. You have these cultural differences. Not all of those cultural differences are incidental to the way we want to be. It's more a case of we've been pushed to be that way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's through that mechanism or that pathway that we were talking about the illusions in our life, the nationalism, the religion, and all that kind of thing. How it's used in an elusive,
Yes. Look, if you asked people, Are the words that you say truly your ideas and your thoughts? Most people would say yes. But if they thought about what they say, they might say, "Oh, I got that idea from TV, or I picked up this idea from, from people that I look up to and I want to impress." So I kind of say those things. Um, and I don't know how many people have subjected the things that they believe to real scrutiny and skepticism.
Mm.
Um, it's easy to project skepticism and scrutiny onto things that you already don't want to be true.
Yeah.
Um, but when you want things to be true, often you the people will kind of look after those things and they'll protect those things from any kind of
Mm.
um, because that's what's become their belief system.
Yeah, that's right. And when you believe in those things so passionately,
Emotionally.
emotionally, yeah,
You know?
you can't let go of it at all. I've written a an article on hoplights.com.au, which is my website that I use. Um, and that article expresses the point that if anything, what we need to do is more of a moderate change in the things that we have as illusions in our life, you know. But identifying them in the first place is really hard for people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Either there's John Anderson says people either think with their emotions or they think with their what does he say? You think that with their minds, or they're skeptical or critical thinking as
yeah,
opposed to emotionally thinking. And you can't, the two just don't mix, you know?
it's a hard thing to have. I tend to be a little bit emotional sometimes too, but a lot of the stuff that like you could tell from me being loud and everything, but uh, a lot of the things that I have said are tested things. They've come
Hmm.
from from philosophies that are established for thousands of years, the history books and all the rest of it.
Hmm.
Um, very rarely do I say things that are out of character or not tested as such.
Well, for example, evolution, we came from a big bang and things became more complex and
Yeah,
da da da. That's how we got here. But you need to say, if you're going to say that, you have to say, but we can't prove that it's true,
yeah.
and it's just something I believe. Like you
It's a
don't hear
feeling.
people say that at the end of
No.
all that. They've got to say that now, really.
Well, it's like for example, you go up to a fifth grader and you ask them how far are we from the sun and whatever. They'll tell you the exact number. I've forgotten what it is, um, and they'll tell you the exact number. And come adulthood, they may even remember that number. But did they actually calculate to see if that is true?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Um,
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
yeah,
Where did you hear that? I
yeah,
always believe that.
yeah.
It makes sense. There's lots of other things, you know.
Mm.
Gosh, and it's really been a fascinating 5 or 6 years where we've had a real kind of questioning of like, oh, is the food any good? You know? Um, boy, you're an expert, aren't you? That means I can just stop thinking and allow you to tell me what to do, can't I? That kind of thing's over, really. I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I think what we were talking about before as one of our topics was we just got to get more serious,
Mm.
as people, as a country. Um, because look, people will be nostalgic for certain eras of Australia, but look, I don't think there was any era where everybody was just the same. I think, like, I know my grandparents as well as anybody. And I think they were quite serious people. So I don't think we've had an era where it was just laid back, go to the beach every day and Holden cars and kangaroos and that sort of thing. There's been poverty in Australia, except for the last few generations.
True.
You know?
A lot of what you're saying is true, but what from my research though, it did show that the boomer age that we could keep talking about and all, and is always referred to, did produce a period of time where there was surplus, to the point where, and you only needed a single person to be working, and that single person was not only able to purchase a car, a house, and pay the for food and put people through school and all the rest of it. And they used to have big families, like we're used to maybe two or three kids nowadays, but back then they used to have maybe five, six. I don't know. They just used to have more children overall, right?
Hmm.
And they put them all through school. And that was one person working. Now I saw an ad today where you can buy a house with someone, but you don't have to necessarily pay together. You can pay separately. So you take
Hmm.
out separate loans for the same property. You can
Hmm.
have a
Hmm.
dual ownership of the property.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's got to the stage where people can't even afford their own homes. So they're
Hmm.
going to go into partnerships with other people to buy a house or
Hmm.
somewhere to live.
Hmm. But don't
Um,
forget, I mean, the amount of destruction that came from World War II,
yeah,
then the prosperity that came, because if you've got to build it back again, there's a lot of work involved in,
yeah,
and plus, you've got America who was by default the superpower of the world.
yeah,
And we're part of that English speaking, and we're trading with England and America. So we piggybacked off that, I think, and I gotta say, I wonder what kind of military technology has been drip fed that's kind of aided the growth of the economy since then as well. Um,
yeah,
there was some goings on in terms of they never really punished a lot of the brains of the German side. They kind of said, "We'll take you," and
yeah.
a lot of technology went to America. So that I think that was a very, very unethical thing to do. I think it's been the beginning of the end in terms of their um, standing, their righteous standing as a country. I mean,
Well, yeah, I can see that, um, because that's the force that we can see, right? That's like Einstein and all the people that were imported at that time, um, and others that were of similar background, Ford and all the rest of it, all the companies that they opened up,
hmm,
But that's the force we see, right? And it's easy to blame them. It's like blaming George Soros and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and all these multi-billionaires for whatever they've done in terms of their business, right? Um, but
is that
above these
natural? Is it
people,
natural to have billionaires? Like, do they just come naturally? I think they're the
well,
oligarchs, aren't they?
they're not necessarily on their own the oligarchs. So you can't blame Bill Gates for being Bill Gates because that's his. Someone was telling me some information that if you believe that a young kid coming out of school was able to put together something like as complicated as Facebook on their own, then you'll believe pretty much anything because these
Are you
people had,
saying it was military technology that he
yeah, it was
became the
it,
face for? Is
yeah,
just
yeah. Like for example, Colgate. The Colgate
toothbrush,
toothpaste. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
toothpaste?
yeah, that was all military issue, right? Um, the antifungal creams that came out and they were selling them on the market, they're all military product that was issued a standard military issue during Vietnam when they went into
Hmm.
the jungles. So they needed some antifungals. Um, just anything you can imagine. Even the internet was like a BBS they used to call it back in the day, and that was a military technology.
You know what else is possibly a military technology that was the response to the recent pandemic?
Um, yes, yes, they were tied into it for sure. Um,
So there's a pattern there, and somehow the pattern just got way out of control, and the pattern just lost the plot. You know, they're starting to say, well, we're not going to just bother with wondering if people like these things or not. We're just going to give them no choice. We're going to
yeah,
force it on people, and that's the
yeah,
new growth model.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
True,
it
too.
doesn't take, you know, it doesn't take a genius to say, oh, well, this is getting in the way. This pesky
Yeah,
free will and consent, well,
yeah.
this is all very old fashioned, isn't it? Getting in
Well,
the way of progress.
yeah, but like these are the forces that we see, Glenn, and there are people that are behind the scenes that are not seen. Um, there are families who own a lot more than these individuals that are high-profile billionaires, right? That own these big mega companies that we've mentioned so far. And even though it's the military trying to find, um, see, if the military came up to you and said to you, "Here, this device allows you to call anybody you want for a mobile phone, right? This allows you to call anybody you want. It's got these capabilities on there, and we can even track it if we need to track it. If the military came up to you and gave you that device, would you use it?
Well,
Well,
never
rhetorically,
really been sort of put that way, has it?
yeah. So what they do is they give it to somebody who can push that technology in a way that will become accepted.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so they give it to the
yeah.
young guy who's gonna suspect a young. I'm not going to mention his name now because we already did, but I'm not going to say. But a young guy that's into social media, who's going to suspect the young guy who's into social media collecting your biometrics, which were part of that pandemic agenda through um, what's that? Yuval Harari. What was his name again? Yuval Harari. He was the companion or friend of Klaus Schwab.
Oh, I don't know this guy. No,
Uh,
it's
he was a Jewish historian,
okay.
and he wrote a book. I think it's Homo Sapiens or something like that. I can't remember now. He wrote a book, and in that he described us as being the new device
Uh,
through hacking our DNA
hmm.
and creating some kind of cyborg entity from us, which is like the chips that they want to put into our.
Well, we've got chips that are made of metal or gold and things like that, but the fastest conductor of data and electricity is biological.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's where we're getting in terms of it'll be
yeah,
like a living organism inside the computer. And that's
exactly.
us. We'll be the living organism.
That's it. And so that's what they've done. They've given this technology to the young people or the people that are going to sell this product for them. They've given that product to them, and then the biometrics, which become crucial in understanding where you go, what you look at, what interests you, all these things, all these biometrics, right? Uh, where are your eyes located on the screen? What are you typing? All these things are being recorded through what you've posted, through what you've put up as images on social media. All these things have been slowly collected, but that is just the raw entry level um, technology
But
of where
someone's
that
got
will
to make
go.
sense of all this. Like
Yeah.
even AI, would AI be able to make sense of this and say, oh,
I,
you should invest your money here, or you should invest your money there?
yeah. So AI definitely, Glenn. AI has taken the step of, for example, we're putting up one image at a time of these things that, of us doing this and that, whatever it is, and just being human beings, sharing things with our friends and whatever else. The AI is able to take a picture where where the game has changed is it can take a slab of 1,000 images and scan it and pick out all the ones of yourself or myself or whoever it is that it's targeting, um, and extract the information that corresponds to those images.
I
So
think.
this is the power of the AI, because that's the technology they're using now for, those cameras that we've got, that are on the streets.
Hmm.
In the old days, the camera would actually be focused in a specific angle to target one specific item, one license plate number, issue a warning or whatever, infringement on based on that capture, right? Now they have cameras that actually taking the wide eye view, and the AI just picks out everything. It can
Mm.
pick out two cars or three cars in, whether you've got a camera, you're holding a phone, or whether you're using a laptop, or leaning over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's good for surveillance and compliance.
Yeah,
Wow. That's pretty sad, really.
yeah,
That's not a very, like, we're not on the verge of a new industrial revolution. Um, this is it's just the complete opposite. Like we talk about the revolution where there was the need for more labor, for creating new products, etc., etc. I think this is um it's not anything that's going to be very well received by people going forward, so I just don't know how it's going to maintain itself except at very high expense. And the thing is, I think in America, they're telling the people running these data centers, you can't use the grid anymore, man. You
yeah,
just can't because you're going to ruin this place. You guys have got to produce your own power.
yeah,
Um, Gosh, that's, I
mm,
mean, they become military targets.
yeah,
Like just like put an X on me here, man.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like so. I look. I might wrap it up here, Tim,
Oh,
if you
sure.
don't mind, mate.
Yeah, yeah, sure. No, that's good. Yes. Thank you once again for everything. We chucked every subject in there instead of a few, but I think we covered what we were planning to. If,
Hope we do it again sometime. And it was not very nice talking to you. And yeah, what did you anything you wanted to leave on, Tim?
just a big thank you for everything, and hopefully we'll do another version of this podcast at some point, another episode as such, and yeah, that's all I just wanted to say.
Fantastic, mate. You have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.